Hey guys, I'm AH Designs and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So 2020 might be a bit of a weird year as we're not exactly able to see each other at cons and such, but for me it's also a bit of a special year as it is my 10-year cosplay anniversary. It has been officially 10 years this August that I have been in the cosplay community and cosplaying regular, making at least minimum one costume per year. So even though I can't celebrate that milestone with my friends at a con in person, I figure it might be fun to go through my cosplay evolution throughout those 10 years in a video where I show you some of the costumes in order. Now, of course, if I were to show you every costume from every single year, this would be an extremely long video. So I've gone in and chose minimum one costume per year that I've been cosplaying. I will talk about them specifically because of their influences and how they might have pushed me in different directions in cosplay in general. So the first cosplay on this list would be my Saria cosplay. This was my first cosplay ever. I made it with the help of my mom. Originally, I had planned to make something completely else, so I decided this would be simpler and more fun, especially because I figured being a smaller 13-year-old, this would be very appropriate character-wise since the character is a little girl. I have since remade that costume, and if you've seen my most recent video, you would know that I'm also remaking it again for my 10-year anniversary. Hopefully by the time this video comes out, I've made more progress on it. All this costume was pretty cute. I got a lot of compliments on even if the wig is not great. It is a party store wig, way too shiny, very thick surprisingly. Going in my face often, the silhouette on my head was not very good. For some reason I used fleece for the belt buckle, boots, and headband. I would not recommend doing that. Halloween of 2010, I decided to be Ashley from WarioWare for Halloween, and then I decided to repurpose that poorly made costume into a cosplay to wear to a con, which I wore in 2011 to G-Anime 2011. The costume was again made with help of my mom. I did have a wig and the headpiece that she wears and everything, but I don't have a picture of myself in that right now, so it's just my natural, very messy, long hair in this particular photo. And my little wand, I believe I made it out of paper mache and in styrofoam ball. Does not hold up well now, but you know what? I looked pretty cute, I think, especially because I was, still 13 years old in this photo. And with the wig, I did look the part of the character. A lot of people commented that they've never seen this character cosplay before, so you know what, that made my day, even if it was a more obscure choice. In 2012, I decided to start cosplaying more frequently and trying to go to a bit more conventions. This was the year, I believe, that Ottawa Comic-Con started. And one costume I really wanted to do that summer for Otakuthon was Princess Daisy. It was a character that I knew I could do without a wig because my natural hair at that time would be easy enough to style into looking Daisy-esque. So again, with my mom's help, her and I found this beautiful taffeta and we found this orange fabric in her stash and we put this costume together. And it's another one where I got a lot of compliments and it made me feel really, really good. I rewore it in 2013 at Ottawa Comic-Con and again received so many compliments and it really motivated me to work on more projects from there on end. Now this was before I realized I would really like sewing this much. This project did make me a little bit more intrigued on the construction of gowns. In 2013, we start getting into my Homestuck phase. A lot of people my age and a little older, a little bit younger, had this phase around this time. It's not a secret. We've all been there. It's okay, nothing to be ashamed of. I was really into Homestuck at the time. I made several Homestuck cosplays starting with Jade, and then God Tier Jade. I also made her 3 a.m. dress, but I wanted to highlight in 2013 this one in particular because this one had a lot of little complications in it. I had to make this weird hood. I bought Neko Mimi ears, which have since been given away. And I was really, really proud of the shoes on this one because I had like sparkled and glittered them all up myself and they looked really, really cute. Jade was the first character where I felt really, really good as the character. And it was also the first time I got a wig that was actually pretty good, and it was an eBay find. So I was really content with this cosplay. I really, really liked how I looked as Jade. And for a while, I thought she was the only character I would ever look good as. Luckily, I decided to try other characters eventually, but I did do quite a few variations of this character. So this one is important on that cosplay journey in that sense. So in 2014, I made quite a few costumes, and this is also when I started doing masquerades. But the costume I'm showing here is not from my first or even my second masquerade. It is from my third attempt, which was at Ottawa Pop Expo 2014. Now, I've already done a video about this costume and why it's probably now my least favorite that I've ever done. So if you want to check that out, please go check it out because it is a bit of an interesting story. But this one was a big pivotal point for me. It was the first time I ever won an award in a masquerade, And it's the first time people started to call like my costumes really good. It was the first time I made a costume with no help from my mother, probably shows, but it's also when I really started to fall in love with sewing. This was the point in high school when I made this that I realized I wanted to do sewing, fashion, costuming for a living. I wanted to study in that field. In 2015, I made quite a few cosplays, but I really want to talk about Twinrova specifically. Twinrova was my most ambitious project to date at that point, 5 years into cosplaying. And it was almost everything from this costume was made using things in my mom's stash, that legendary stash that I have mentioned in other videos. Most of this was from in there. I didn't actually spend that much on this costume, even though it's considered a bigger costume, and I was really proud of it. The finishing still holds up pretty nicely, and I managed to figure out all of this with some help from my mother, of course. She's a very creative woman. I even got some lights in the wands, and of course, this was also the one where I won the award from Ottawa Geek Market with, which was a $1,000 scholarship towards my education. Now, this is the last costume on this list that comes before my education in fashion. All the ones after this, I'll have at least a minimum of 1 semester of education while completing them. This is a pretty good start. I went into college with this much knowledge, with this level of workmanship. Still is not amazing workmanship. I was not some superstar at this age, but it was still pretty solid, and I went in pretty confidently into school, even though I still had a lot to learn. Next up is 2016, and I have a few examples for this one, because this year I did a lot of really ambitious projects. The first one of which was my Snow White from Mirror Mirror. The point where I made this, it was the Christmas break between my first year, so I had only completed a full semester, and I made a lot of this while I was at school. But my workmanship was improving greatly at this point, and evolving so quickly that by the time I actually got to debut this costume at Anime North that year, my workmanship level had already increased by a lot, because that's what school does to you. It really pushes you, and you're constantly practicing, constantly getting better. By the time I actually got to wear this, it was already like passe. It was okay, I was still proud of it, I still felt great, and I got to practice a technique I had always wanted to learn and I want to do more of now, which is smocking, which if you look at the bodice is that nice honeycomb pattern on it. Now when I look at this costume, I realize I should have maybe spent a little more on the fabric, especially for that lighter blue, because it was very cheap and very shiny. This is a costume I really would love to revisit, or other versions of this character, because the costume design in this film is incredible. So out there, so colorful and vibrant. I hope I could do it more justice in the future. Do the sleeves properly, put better fabric, make the hoop skirt a little better. It was also when I first got to wear cosplay alongside my friend Symphony and Silk Cosplay, when she wore her Cinderella and debuted it at Anime North, and the two of us were walking around in these big blue ball gowns together. Not from the same thing, it wasn't an intentional idea of cosplaying these characters together. It just happened, we looked pretty cool, and even Yaya Han was excited to see us at Anime North. We were supposed to be doing something important, but instead she was like, no, look, the princesses! Backstage, which is it's a special memory for me. It's also when I really got to know Symphony and Silk really well, just bonding over being princesses. Other costume from 2016 is my Lissa cosplay, Lissa from Fire Emblem. I used metallic duct tape to make the hoop skirt because it's visible on this costume, and it needed to look like metal, but I have no welding skills. This was an extremely ambitious project. There's still some things I could do better on it nowadays. I had to make that big old prop, which a lot of people really liked, and I really appreciate the love it got. And it was a costume that it felt like at that point, like, yes, I've gotten to a point that I'm really proud of. And it was also when my performances started to get a lot better. I got a lot of compliments on the performance for this particular one, also on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. And I just felt so good as this character, and I realized that Lissa was actually very comfortable to wear, not too cumbersome even with the big skirt and the big old staff. This year was just such a good year for cosplaying for me. I made so many more new friends. I got closer with a lot of my now current best friends, including Theorem Productions, who took this photo, and of course, all my other friends as well. It was just such a good year for cosplaying this particular year. I only have one example from 2017 that I'm going to share, but that's because this was a very ambitious project, and I'm really proud of it even to this day. Symphony and Silk Cosplay and I wanted to do a group to practice working together for other future projects. So we decided to do Peach and Rosalina, and I love this project through and through. We decided to also make a lot of props for this one. In this photo, you can see that there are tons of Luma plushies, which we all made as well. A really important project to me, and it's still a favorite masquerade entry for me to this day. I have 2 examples of cosplays from 2018. That's because, again, I have 2 very ambitious projects in here. The first one I completed was Urbosa. Now, Urbosa was a very different project for me. A lot of wig work. I had to do a bunch of inner structure for it to keep it on my head. Little armor pieces and little finicky bits. A lot of detail and not that much clothes, but still a lot of work put into the clothes. I was really proud of it. At first, I was so worried I wouldn't look good as the character. I felt so powerful in this costume. Now it's very hard to pick out when to wear this costume because you need to have a certain temperature, and it has to be one where I can take breaks from the wig because it is darn heavy and I'm not used to things on my head. Also in 2018, myself and Symphony and Silk were working towards the World Cosplay Summit preliminaries. I actually had 3 dresses on during that skit, and in the 2.5 minutes we had, I pulled them all off and only had the final layer at the bottom. And that is what this gown is right here. Now, this was a huge team effort. We only had a few months to do it because before that, I was still in school. I had graduated literally weeks before starting this project, and then boom. Right after finishing 5 garments for the runway for school, I was working on 5 garments with a friend for World Cosplay Summit. I had the same amount of time. Basically, I just did the same thing twice, 3 months, 3 months. I'm crazy. I probably should have given myself a bit of a break or started working on this even sooner, but we did it. We made 5 costumes in that time. But this was a really, really awesome project. I felt so cute in this final dress. I always feel cute as Sakura. There's no way you can't feel cute as Sakura. She is the epitome of cute. But this gown took a lot of thinking out, a lot of managing, a lot of reworking and tweaking. I pattern drafted it all from scratch, and it is hard to keep a empire-waisted strapless gown up, especially when you have 2 layers of skirt that are lined. It was heavy. It is heavy. So I had to make this thing darn tight. It was molded to my body perfectly, to the point that I have since gained not even a complete inch, and it doesn't want to fit anymore. It is that perfectly molded to me back in 2018. But it turned out really cute. I got beautiful photos of it, and this whole project taught me a lot. So I'm really, really proud of what we ended up doing, and I'm happy of all the things we learned about entering the preliminary together and working together on such a huge, ambitious project in only 3 months. So we might not have won, but we did a good job and learned a lot. So next up is 2019, and the most notable costume from this point is my Tomoyo. Tomoyo I started, and it took me about 6 months of on and off work to complete. I was in school at this point again for costume production instead of fashion, so it was a postgraduate. I was working and tinkering around with this costume on and off on my weekends and free time whenever I had a chance to, because it was a busy program. This was another really fun project because I was working with the biggest group I have ever worked with, even still to this day, and we were working so well together. It was so collaborative, we had a lot of fun, rehearsals were fun. I talk about this a little bit in my 2019 recap video where I talk about a bit of the processes of us getting together in July to practice everything out, and I ended up being so proud of this costume. I still am. I'm hoping I get to wear it again to another con soon, as I was supposed to wear it to Costume Con and a few other events like YetiCon this year as well. I feel so elegant, and Gabby the Geek got such amazing photos of me in this cosplay. I'm really, really proud of it, and it's definitely the top cosplay of 2019, and even to that point, it's still a favorite cosplay of mine. And finally, we're at this year, 2020. I have been working on a few projects on and off. You can see a few of them. I did a few scrap epic challenges here on my channel, so you can check those out, but I'm specifically going to talk about finishing my Suzy Q cosplay. This is not as big a project as some of the other ones in this video, but it is probably now one of my favorite cosplays. Suzy Q is super comfortable to wear. I feel super cute as her. It's a notable enough character, especially with how popular JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is, that people recognize it and get really excited even from pictures of it. It's comfortable, my workmanship turned out really good on it, but I feel really cute. There's a lot more work into it than it looks like, so that's kind of a fun part where I know that so much love went into it, and it's also a cosplay that I made to go with my boyfriend's cosplay that I finished, his Joseph Joestar. So it's also the first like real couple cosplay that we've done together, so it's a really good costume in that sense, really notable in that sense. I'm really looking forward to finally wearing this to a convention and doing a proper shoot with it, doing a shoot with my boyfriend and his Joseph now that it's done. I absolutely adore this cosplay. I'm really, really excited to wear it to a con, wear it into a masquerade, because I have some ideas of some performance I could do with this one. So that's 10 years of me cosplaying summarized into a very short video. I hope that's slightly interesting to you guys, and I hope it shows that even if you're just starting now, like, your cosplays are going to improve. Even if you don't go to fashion or costume school, you're gonna have so much improvement as you work on stuff. You're gonna have a lot of fun in the process, and you're gonna go through some different phases of working on different kinds of projects, and different projects will push you to do other projects and things like that. Cosplay is definitely a hobby where you're going to evolve, you're going to change a bit, go with the flow a little bit, and learn a lot in the process. As you can see in this evolution, you can tell that I started off not doing any of the sewing, and then eventually I decided I love sewing enough that I went to school for it, and improved tremendously from that point. So cosplay has really led me to do a lot of things. I am so grateful for the 10 years of cosplaying I've gone through, the people I've met, which are definitely the most important part of all of this, the experiences I've had that have led me to be the person I am today. If it were not for cosplay, I would not be who I currently am at all. So thank you guys so much for watching my evolution of cosplay these past 10 years. Be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you'd like to support my 2021 and my next decade of cosplay, you can check out my Ko-Fi account as well. I'm gonna be working on something really ambitious once again, because that's just how I do things after a very calm year like 2020. So be sure to check out all the links in the description also for my social media. See you guys next video. Bye!